aunt, the same one who had quietly supported me before, finally spoke up. Justin was telling some story about how he'd been misunderstood when my aunt interrupted him. She didn't yell or get angry. She just calmly pointed out how often Justin seemed to misunderstand people, and how convenient it was that it always left him looking like the victim. The room went silent. Justin's face turned red, and for a moment he was completely thrown off. Then he mumbled something about not wanting to argue and stormed out of the room. It was the first time I'd seen him genuinely embarrassed, and it was clear from the looks on everyone's faces that my aunt's words had hit a nerve. After that dinner, more relatives started reaching out to me. Some shared stories of their own experiences with Justin, how he'd borrowed money and never paid it back, or how he'd bailed on commitments and left them to pick up the slack. It seemed like once someone else had the courage to speak up, the floodgates opened. The narrative was starting to shift, and Justin was losing the control he'd always had over family dynamics. But Justin wasn't done. He hosted a small gathering with mutual family friends, and from what I heard, he used it as a stage to air his grievances about me. He framed me as bitter, jealous, and out to punish him for no reason. A couple of family friends even called me afterward to ask what was going on. I calmly explained my side of the story and made it clear that I wasn't interested in bad-mouthing Justin, but was simply standing up for myself after years of his behavior. I think my refusal to engage publicly frustrated Justin even more. By this point, family lines were clearly drawn. Some relatives were avoiding gatherings altogether, while others quietly showed their support for me. The tension was impossible to ignore. That's when Mom decided to arrange a peace talk at her house. She called me, insisting that we all needed to sit down and work things out for the sake of the family. I told her flatly that I wasn't interested unless Justin was ready to offer a real apology. She tried to argue, but I stood firm. The peace talk happened without me, and from what I heard, it didn't go well. Justin apparently spent most of it complaining about how he was being attacked, while Mom tried to mediate and failed miserably. Dad, to his credit, didn't back down. He reiterated that Justin needed to take responsibility for his actions, but without me there, the whole thing devolved into a blame game. For the first time in years, I felt like I was in control. The situation was messy, but I wasn't the one scrambling to keep the peace anymore. Justin might still be trying to spin the story, but the cracks in his golden child image were starting to show, and I wasn't about to let him patch them up so easily. Update 4. Not long after the so-called peace talk flopped, cracks in Justin's perfect image started to show, and it didn't take long for everyone to notice. The first hint came from an unexpected source, my cousin Julia. She mentioned in passing that Justin had been asking around for a loan. At first, I brushed it off as typical Justin behavior, but then I started hearing the same story from other relatives. Turns out, Justin was in financial trouble. Bad trouble. He'd been relying on Mom to cover his bills, and it was getting harder for her to keep it under wraps. The golden child wasn't as untouchable as everyone thought. Mom tried to spin it. She pulled me aside one evening, saying Justin was going through a tough time, and that I needed to cut him some slack. She went on about how stressed he was and how he just needed support. I let her finish, then calmly reminded her that past struggles didn't excuse years of bad behavior. If anything, the way he handled tough times only made it clearer why boundaries were necessary. Mom didn't like that answer, but for once, she didn't argue. Justin, of course, didn't take this quietly. He doubled down on his manipulation, telling anyone who'd listen that I was being cruel by holding a grudge. But here's where things got interesting. People were starting to push back. A few relatives who'd stayed neutral until now began calling Justin out directly. At one family gathering, an uncle openly told Justin that his constant deflection and excuses were getting